recording.
Welcome everyone to the SellOut Show, where we are always sold out. I am Diana Guerin. I am the co-founder of Trade Show Makeover, where we make companies stop leaving money on the trade show floor.
Hey Diana, hey everyone, I'm Sean Carroll Sandy. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of the Selling Agency, where we coach humans how to sell to other humans. Because selling like sales zombies is just really gross.
Speaking of which, the new season of Walking Dead just came onto Netflix, so that's very timely.
Very good, very good.
All right, so we have a really special guest today. His name is Jeff Howell, and I am so excited. We started talking with him before we started recording, and then we're like, we got to just get this all on tape because it's all awesome. So we got introduced to Jeff through Vidyard. Jeff and Sean and I are all judging a video sales contest this month. And anyway, so Jeff, you really strike us as somebody who's creative, innovative. One of the things that we do is we serve the boots on the ground, phone in the hand salespeople who are making it happen every day. We don't have sales experts on our sales experts. I mean, obviously you're a sales expert, but we don't have the gurus on our show, because what we want to hear about, both of us are practitioners. We want to hear about what the practitioners are doing that's working. And Sean and I have a thesis that bringing personality to sales is your competitive edge, and I think you really demonstrate that. So just before we were getting on, do you want to say anything about yourself? And then I really want to hear what you try to do at Elia Care every single day.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks for having me on. I do hate people that do shameless self-promotion. Yeah, I guess as we were talking, I spent 17 years in commercial real estate, and the name of that game is it's a walking, talking business. And within the last 11 years, I was a partner in my own boutique firm. So we had a few partners, and my specialty was just sort of having that BDR role, and I had no problem just picking the phone up every day. But that's an industry where even the biggest brands in the business and the top performers at those brands, they use Microsoft Excel as their CRM, and they just make calls, and there's not much innovation, and it's really the culture of the entire industry. Mm-hmm. So I was just joking with you guys that now that I've come to Elia Care, I'm sort of this uncaged animal where I'm trying to almost get fired every day. And if that's the case, then, and I successfully don't get fired, that I don't really, if you do everything just like everyone else, you're just going to be part of that standard bell curve, and you're just going to sit right in the middle. So when I came over, the first thing I did was I came up with home care songs, and then we started with Vidyard, and I shared with you guys my latest creation of using a green screen to create a Giphy that sits within your email signature with a call to action. So if there's anything that we can do to really stand out, my objective is to just try it and see how it works, because we can all sympathize with. I remember when I had the first BlackBerry, and I carried it around on my hip. The ladies loved it. And I don't know about you guys, but I can specifically remember back in the early 2000s when in mid-December, you had 2 weeks worth of legitimate downtime. And then as the world got more connected, I probably get 200 emails per day, and I get prospected. And it's a real simple, quick, easy delete for me. And I get alert fatigue just from the internal communication. Mm-hmm. So my real focus is to sort of help the sales team here really capture people's attention to start with. Because if you can't even do that, it doesn't matter what your message is.
Amen. Amen. Okay, so I want to dig into a bunch of stuff here, because Diana and I really love the topic, the idea, and the notion that your personality, when you show up with your personality, it gives you a competitive advantage. It's a preview of what it's like to work with you, and then that's our job, is to attract people to work with us, to get them interested, to show them what it's like. It's going to be fun, it's going to be knowledgeable, etc. So but one of the things that we notice is that people like sort of like fear letting go. They fear trying new things. They fear bringing their personality. Everyone's got like this button up, you know, sales persona, super professional, and it's just bleh, it's just really blah. So I know that you're the chief try this stuff out officer, but especially if you've got people who come from other companies, how do you encourage your sales team to bring their personality to the game? That
Yeah, sure.
you might screw it up. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but I'm going to laugh at it and it's okay. What do you do there to LiveCare to help people do that?
So the first thing is that everyone has access to the same templates. And so I have 4 new people starting next week. And phase 1 is going to be, hey, here are the email templates that you're going to use. And let's see what luck you have with this. And I'm the person in the videos, right? And so we just have to change the text to say, my colleague Jeff shot you this video about this.
Right.
And obviously it's a little less ideal than if it's, you know, person A reaches out and person A is in the video and then person A makes the phone call and all that. But at least it's a baby step for people to actually experiment and see for themselves what it is that, like, are we getting good engagement with this? And you know, I'll fully admit I'm enough of a class clown and I have enough freedom here to let's just run with some things and see what works and what doesn't work. But I'll tell you, one of the best interactions I ever had was when my first approach was to send a funny video to someone, and it got engagement, but it didn't move the needle.
Mm-hmm.
And it was me using Vidyard. And I did a thing called the fake Google results. So what I'll do is I'll put in someone's name plus LinkedIn. So they appear at the very top and there won't be any ads. And then I'll go into the search box and then I'll type in who's the smartest person in their industry. And then what I'll do is I'll either snippet that and paste it in as an image within an email, or I will screencast it within Vidyard and I'll say, hey, look, I was doing this research up here. Looks like you're the smartest person. As such, I'm sure you're smart enough to keep up with, you know, the best home care software or whatnot. So in that particular case, that guy got a little bit of a kick out of it, but we ended up booking an in-person meeting through the next video that I got. So we use HubSpot and we use Vidyard, and you can see, okay, this guy opened it quite a few times. He clicked on it. He knows who we are, but he didn't act on the call to action. And the next video led to him agreeing to an in-person meeting. And the next video was, I took it one step further and I doubled down on the personalization, right? Because I have enough feedback here that we want to do 2 things, right? We want to personalize, but we want to scale it at the same time.
Right.
And so, you know, it's that constant battle of being at that intersection and how do you do that? Mm-hmm. So when you see engagement, it effectively, they move themselves down your sales funnel, that it's someone that you at least have their attention and there's engagement there and they know about your brand. And what I did was I went back to LinkedIn Navigator this time. And what it's a bit of a hack that I discovered is when someone has their description, usually it ends with ... and there's the click more button. Mm-hmm. And when you click that, a sort of a white box pops up and it grays out everything else. And so the description pops up in this kind of light box. You're like, oh, this actually is the perfect way to screencast something because we get rid of all of the excess noise and their description of who they are sits there. And wow. Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to Vidyard this view. And so here I am in the corner as a bubble pointing up. And this time it was, you know, a very thoughtful sort of message saying, hey, look, you know, hope you enjoyed my previous video, but in all seriousness, you're the kind of person, as per how you describe yourself, that you want to keep up with the latest technology and, you know, you want to be a leader in the home care space. These are all the things that we're working on. And so you don't have to be sort of, you know, try to be the most charismatic, outgoing. Not everyone's like that. There's plenty of introverted salespeople that are very thoughtful. And what happened was the call to action was that we were doing a road show in Brooklyn, and it was, hey, our guys are going to be in Brooklyn. This is my outreach to you as to why we think we should be able to have a coffee at your office. And in true Brooklyn fashion, his response was, book it. So, and it worked. And then the feedback that I received from the guys was, he said to them, the first outreach was unique, but it didn't resonate with him. But he noticed it. And then the second outreach was, let's change the message here. And he just, he said he couldn't say no after that, because it just, I flattered him and I showed that I did my research, and it was evident in that video. And that's what we're all trying to replicate, right? So like when you're at a trade show, you have the ability to, people do 2,000 calculations when they see you in 3 seconds, right? So how do we try to replicate that as much as possible through the web? And the answer is not just video, but the authenticity that goes with that.
Oh, there are like 500 things that you just said that we could talk about for the whole session. But one of the things that really strikes me, Jeff, is, Sean and I are big on not tips and tricks and techniques, because, pretty soon you have the, did you get eaten by an alligator? And that email doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So, so there were some like kind of techniques in there that you were talking about, but I think what's interesting is what's behind the technique. So, using video, very interesting and important. And I think that, those studies show our brains visually process images 60,000 times faster than text on a page. I think that we really get to feel who somebody is when we're using video. So in some ways that's not a technique. And I think video is here to stay, frankly. And I think it's smart to get good at it. But so some of the tricks that you did were interesting, but they're interesting because they're new and fresh, and you came up with something that you thought would be compelling. And then you read then you could read emotional intelligence that might have been interesting, but it wasn't compelling. So how are we going to pivot to something that is interesting and compelling to this person? So those are the things that I kind of wanted to highlight. Is I don't want everybody now going out and making Vidyard videos with a Google search of somebody who's the smart. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's the kind of thing that gets old. But there's something that you're doing, and I have a feeling that you started it way before Eliacare, which is bringing a natural genius. Talk about that all the time. Bringing a natural genius to your sales structure. So there's something, maybe you've learned the rules, but then you learn to break them. So can you highlight a little bit about what you mean by you try to get yourself almost fired every day? Like, what's an example of you? Because I think that really is going to demonstrate how you push the envelope to get innovation.
Okay, so here's a good story. About a year ago, I actually was a contestant in the Vidyard Video and Business Awards. And one of my roles here is just to sort of raise awareness about Eliacare on a couple of fronts, just so everyone in the world knows that we are in the home care software space, and we're a fast-growing tech company. But then the offshoot of that is we're doubling the size over the next year, and we want to have a full funnel of people that want to work here. And part of that is just, it seems like such a fun, cool place to work. And I said, okay, well, here I am shooting all these videos. I would love to enter the Video and Business Awards, and maybe there'd be some great exposure for Eliacare there. And it's going to be fun, and I'm going to love to see what other companies are doing in video today. And one of the things that I did after I submitted, I got very lucky with this, is that Tyler was one of the judges, and Shika was another judge. And so I Google imaged them. And I had not spoken with either one of these people prior. And I found a long hair Tyler on the internet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. And Eliacare was a customer of Vidyard. And so I thought, okay, I've never met Tyler, but they're a pretty fun company themselves. And I found a picture that Shika had posted on her Twitter about just sort of like a girls' night in, where she had cucumbers over the eyes and she had a mud mask on. And in my travels, I've got some guys on Fiverr that can do some really cool things with video. And do you guys remember the "Take Me to a River" fish? Remember back in, it was like 15 years ago, and the fish
Billy Bass.
talks.
Very big about that.
That's it, yeah. So I've got a guy that can do that. So basically, you record an audio file, and then he sort of makes this slit within the mouth, and he sort of imposes his own mouth over top of someone's mouth with the audio you provide. And so I submitted that. I just posted that to LinkedIn, and at the end of the video, it was long-haired Tyler saying that I have his vote, and then same with Shika. Jeff's so electrifying, he has my vote. And it was shocking, right? It caught people's attention, and the last I checked, it was like 8,000 views by the end of the week or something like that. There was crazy engagement, and I made the day of every BDR at Vidyard that day. And there were comments saying, "I never knew what happiness was until I saw Tyler's hair," and all that. And meanwhile, to this day, I haven't met Tyler in person. I've toured their space. They helped us out with this technology called Connect Leader, which we use to make our cold calls. And they have great office space in Waterloo. And I've done a webinar with Tyler, but I've never met him in person. So I took a bit of a risk there. And even internally at AlayaCare, people were like, "Wait, you did that to the VP of Marketing at Vidyard?" And so I do have a bit of a luxury of probably having a bit more bandwidth to play with here than at some companies where it's a little bit bigger and a little bit more structured. And the real challenge starts with the corporate culture, right? Because the technology is just, the videos are just the vehicle, right? You still have to decide, where are we driving, how fast are we driving, who's driving, what roads are we driving on. And that can be the real challenge. But what I would say is that if you still want to color within the lines, and you don't have a personality just to be doing some wild and crazy things, there's still this immense opportunity right now that video is going to become so mainstream that, let's call it 2 or 3 years from now, everyone's going to wonder why we ever sent text emails to begin with. And so it's going to lose the power that it has right now, right? So I've been here for almost 2 years. I can tell you the names of the people that have sent me videos, because there's only about 3 of them.
Yep.
Right? And I paid attention, and those people, I still know what their company is. I know what their names are. And I would even say that their outreach wasn't anything special, but it was special because all the other ones are just quick deletes. And then if someone sends me a video, they immediately have my interest.
Right. So there's, again, a lot to unpack there, Jeff. But one of the things that you touched on was, I've been doing more with small businesses, competing against big competitors, and this notion that we've got to, business 4.0, like the next generation business, we've got to rely on what I call organizational gravity. You've got to be creating gravity. You've got to be magnetic to attract your ideal clients. But as we can see in this really tight talent market, you've got to be magnetic, and you've got to market like a mother to attract sales talent or any kind of talent now. So what's interesting is that I look at organizations and say, why would you go about it separately? Why would you not put your culture out there and lead with it up front? Your gravity that attracts clients, that attracts salespeople, that attracts your talent, just put it all out there instead of making it separate efforts. So it sounds like that's what you're trying to do to attract really, as you guys are expanding, top-notch sales players.
Yeah, so we have a plan as well to do a recruiting video. And the magic of the video is, it's like, it can just sit on a landing page, and we've created some fun videos. You know how on a website, the About Us page is usually the most popular? And when I look at our web analytics, and I hear from people that apply for jobs, they say AlayaCare just looks like a fun place to work. And you know where that comes from is just the picture from the holiday party where we're all wearing the same hoodies, right? Yeah. And the videos where, it's International Women's Day, and we had a professional videographer interview some of our women, and it just brings things to life. And there's such an opportunity, not just with sales, but for these videos to live on websites and to draw you in. Who wouldn't want to just click on a video and just learn more about what it's really like instead of looking at pictures and text on a page?
Yeah.
So I think it's fantastic to have a culture of fun and, a place that people are going to be able to express themselves. But what difference do you think that culture makes in your ability to experience this kind of growth? And I'm guessing that a lot of your salespeople are crushing their numbers. What do you think the difference is that fun and enjoyment makes?
Good question.
Yeah. So when people, either join a company or leave a company, and it's a bit of a cliche, and it's when people ask you, what's it like to work here, this and that, the answer is always something around, it's all about the people, right? And me personally, I could be in other industries, I could find work that's challenging, but there's just something about winning with smart people, right? Solving challenging problems with people that you want to go and have a beer with afterwards. And it's not rocket science. It's just, I think a lot of people, you could be in some boring industry, but if it's challenging to you, it could be something that you really like and enjoy doing. And so you want to do it with people that, you just can relate to. And so if we can capture that on video, then it just can sit on a landing page, or it can be in an email sequence that we can fire out at any time. And people just start to, look into that, and they start to picture themselves working at the company. So one thing we did was we took over there was a Queen's Health and Business Conference at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. And we decided we were going to go give a speech. And the speech was at a pub with beers on us, and it was how to get a job in healthcare. So it's kind of the perfect, like, who wouldn't want to go to that if you're a student, right? You're going to learn how to get a job in healthcare, and you're going to have free beers, and it's not going to be in a stuffy conference room. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, I approached it like it was like they were people that I had to sequence as part of a sales process. So I created a video. And the video, what I did was I linked in with all of the organizers, and then I reached out to some other people to cold LinkedIn with them as well. And that's another channel. So universities typically will have a bit of a random generated email so that the students don't get spammed, right? So at Queen's, for example, you have a random number, your 3 initials, and then a random number at queensu.ca. And so it's tough to just sort of guess people's email addresses. But there's not many students that wouldn't accept a LinkedIn invite saying, hey, saw your profile, wondering if you want to connect. Most students would just be flattered, and they don't have many connections, and they wouldn't say no. And once you're connected, you can send them a video. Mm-hmm. And it just has to be a link to whether you're using Vidyard or Wistia or your own hosting. You just create the link, and then within LinkedIn, it'll generate the thumbnail and the play button for you as well. So then all you have to do is say, okay, I'm going to create one video. It's not expensive. I shot all my videos on my iPhone, and then I edited them just using Screencast-O-Matic, which is $15 per year. And then I just put them up there, and then it was just a collage of people at the company saying how awesome I am. And that was it. And the feedback that I got was that everyone was excited to come to the presentation, and there was buzz, there was word of mouth, and there are no corporate employers that are doing this, because if they're a big enough company, they're complacent enough to not have to think outside the box to get students. Yeah. The person that's in charge of doing that recruiting, usually it's just kind of like an extra thing they have to do for their job. And so they just check that box. And our objective was to build a brand on campus and be the coolest recruiter that they've ever seen. And the real power is just in that small initial group that you start with, and then the word of mouth spreads from there.
Nice. Very cool. Well, you've given people a lot of technical to-do know-how, stuff like that. do you just sit at your desk and think about this all day? Or do you take it to, like, do you guys have a sales lab? Diana talks about having a sales lab where you guys spitball, you come up with ideas, and then everyone walks away and customizes and takes things and makes them their own.
I'd say it's very casual. It's more that I've got these oddball ideas that once they're in my head, I have to go do it. And so you can see the background here. I purchased not one but 2 green screens, and it's all very cheap stuff. So green screens are $25 on Amazon. I only got 2 so that I can have an invisibility cloak. And if you invest $15, you can go to Udemy and you can just download a course. So what I did was I upgraded to Camtasia, if you guys have ever heard of that. And it's probably right at the crossroads of sophisticated enough so you can do some pretty cool things, and user-friendly enough that it's something like $175, and it's not a subscription. You just pay for it once, and then it's sophisticated enough to come up with some decent-looking videos, but easy enough that you can spend $15 on Udemy to take a 2 or 3 hour course on it and know how to use it. So I'm no expert, and I think for most people to be part of their sales or marketing, it's not about the production value, it's about the actual content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think one of the most important things that you've highlighted here, Jeff, is something that Sean always talks about, which is the part of our brain that works the hardest is still the one that's the future prediction machine. So what is it going to be like to work with this guy? What is it going to be like to be on a sales call with this guy? What is it going to be like to be at his company? What is it going to be like when I need customer service? So I think one of the most brilliant things that you're doing in all of your communications, the ones that you shared with us as we were getting ready to have you as a guest, all the way up to the actual conversation, and then the things that you've been highlighting today are my key thing that I'm hearing that's so important is how do you use all the tools at your disposal? They don't have to be expensive, but how do you use all the tools at your disposal to make sure that your customers understand what it's going to be like to work with you, or your recruits understand what it's going to be like to be a part of your team? So I think those are really phenomenal things to share with people, because like you said, you don't have to be extroverted. You don't have to be Jeremy Levier who plays a guitar and wears a jersey. You've got to be you, and that's going to be the thing that really is what people want to understand, is what is it going to be like to be in a business relationship with you. Would you agree?
Yeah. When I was a real estate broker, we would go for beers after work quite a lot. And for 2 reasons. It was either a great day and we'd celebrate, or it was a miserable day and we would drown in our
have a beer.
Yeah. Or it was an okay day and we're like, let's just go for beers.
Or it was Wednesday.
Yeah. And by after work, I mean at 10 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
No, I'm just kidding. And one thing that always struck me, and this was back in the early 2000s before we lived in this content marketing world, is that we would always say things as they really were. Right. And so you would have people that were just completely untrustworthy, but totally successful. And we would just speak so candidly and so matter-of-factly, and everyone would be in agreement. It'd be things like, oh, this client hired that guy. He's not gonna serve them well, but they're gonna be happy with him. They're just not gonna know. And this client is doing their own deal and it's at this price, and they don't know that that's way higher than if they had involved a real estate broker or whatever it is. But as we're having drinks, it's if any potential prospect was just sitting there with us, even just as a fly on the wall, they would just be 100% convinced, because we're not trying to sell anyone. We're actually just we're just chatting about how things are. And that revelation would be so critical for them, because those prospects are actually just used to sitting in boardrooms and being presented to and not knowing who to really trust. And that's the essence of what you want to capture, right? So, or likewise, if your strength is when you are at a trade show and someone stops by your booth and they're there for 5 minutes and they're relaxed and they're not distracted and they're there to go talk to vendors, and you've got this opportunity to just tell them how you can help and just be a real person. How do you capture that? That's what it's all about, is just whether it's very sincere and thoughtful, or if it's very, if you're selling something that requires a lot of detail, or if it's lighthearted and fun, and you want to be the company that people are like, they just seem like a lot of fun, and we'd love to work with them. Whatever it is, that's what you just have to capture. And I've always felt that way when I would just make straight cold calls, or when, in commercial real estate, I would actually take screen captures of our system that would show available space. And then I would paste that in as a graphic into an email. And I'd say, hey, this is what's going on in your building. It's very graphical, and it's just an email where people can see right away. And the whole point is just to try to give value before I ask for anything in return, and just try to get people to know you, like you, and trust you. And helping is the new selling, right? It's people have access to enough information these days that they're going to eventually get to a solid decision that's their due diligence will be done on. So why not just whatever it is that is your advantage, whether it's personality or thoughtfulness or detail. For us, the big delivery method is video, but we're also huge into voicemails as well. Because that's where you can deliver tone, right? Because in an email, not only tone, but you deliver a lack of scale, right? So if I leave you at how many people leave voicemails anymore? And so we do an email sequence where I'll say, hey Sean, or hey Diana, I'm calling for this reason. I genuinely think I can help. I'll follow up at this time next week. Look for my email. It has a video in it, and it explains this.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't scale that. And so therefore you're going to feel like, okay, here's someone who's actually spending the time, and they're not just hitting a button and 300 emails go out from their inbox that day.
Yep. Yeah, people are so sick of that. I mean, it pisses me off so bad now that our telesales calls are robocalls. I don't even get a real person. A real person that's interrupting me. That's so unsatisfying.
Do you guys use direct mail?
Yes.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. I'm a pro.
Note with a little gift in it. You can have anything you want from somebody.
So that's why I have these. We do handwritten notes with $5 stapled to the note. And so it doesn't matter how much money you make, that $5 will give you that dopamine hit. And I always do just a short handwritten note. And I've got these templates as well that have these stick figures that illustrate, funny little points. And the tagline is always, just sort of like, have coffee on me today. Or I might get a little cheeky and say, life is short, accept bribes, right?
I like that.
And I'll tell you, I save every one. We get emails from people. I call them our collection of love notes, and it's in a PowerPoint file. And in 17 years in commercial real estate, I never had anyone compliment me on my outreach style. And in less than 2 years at Elia Care, there's probably 20 different emails that we've received that say, oh, that was hilarious, or you've made my day. And it's just trying to be not only different, but exude whatever personality traits you're trying to get across. And one example is this woman who I'd leave her voicemails, I'd send her notes on LinkedIn. I would mail cash to her. I think I've sent her 4 separate letters with $5 each time. And the last step, I never heard back from her. And then their company won an award. And I have them saved as a lead on LinkedIn Navigator. And I see, oh, interesting. They won this award for, best home care agency in Missouri. And so I went on LinkedIn. I shared that post. and I looked up everyone we have in HubSpot, and I tagged every single person on LinkedIn, which is, I think, another hack that most people don't use, is tagging people on social.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I said, hey, congratulations, keep up the great work. And when I tagged her and she got that notification, she followed it to LinkedIn. She sent me an email back, a message back on LinkedIn saying, hey, thanks for this. That was great. Just to let you know, you've made my day more than once, and we're not looking at software now, but you guys are on the list.
That's awesome. I have a really, really, really important, like, sit up and take note moment here to call attention to what you just said. So first thing is that I think that there's this notion, even with video and prospecting, phone calls, emails, there's this notion that every outreach is a Hail Mary. It's this long bomb and someone's going to catch it. That this phone call with this script is the golden unicorn, and they're going to just fall in love with me with this one call, or it's the email that laid the golden egg. And what, especially now, what I think sellers don't realize is that it's about the accumulation of fingerprints and footprints that you leave. Rarely are you ever going to get one on the first try. It's about, Hail Marys are sexy. That's what gets all the highlight reels, right? But it's about marching. It's first downs. It's marching the ball down the field and incremental gains. That's what leaving that impression and showing people what it's like to work with you builds that eventual credibility that gets people to turn. So that's the first key. The second key is that I just learned why this works. So just listen to this clinical psychologist who's talking about attention and influence and memory and recall. And what she said was, if you want someone to recall something precisely, you give the same message in the same context over and over and over again. So you keep showing up with the same message in email. But if you want people to feel more familiar, you take the same message and you put it in multiple contexts. And that makes people feel much more familiar. So LinkedIn, direct mail, in-person, networking, whatever. So it works magically. When I help sales teams build out their follow-up sequence and we use multiple contexts, their responses are so much more casual and candid because they feel like they know them already because they're seeing them in different contexts. So that's super important to use multiple mediums in your outreach, and then that you're leaving fingerprints, you're leaving footprints, and getting people to know, so they feel familiar. So super important what you're doing. That's why it works.
One of the best emails that I've ever come up with was sending them a video that was not mine. And so, for example, I would I'd focus on Iowa. And then I would say, okay, any Medicaid billing home health agency in Iowa would know who their director of Medicaid is. So I would search and say, how many videos are there surrounding Iowa Medicaid? And I'd say, okay, here's this guy here. He's the top guy. And he has this 2-minute speech on what's going on with this. And then I would snippet that YouTube, usually about halfway through the video, so that they're sort of pointing to something relevant. And then I would take the link and then I would hyperlink that image. And then I'd say, hey, so-and-so, here's what's going on with value-based pay in Iowa per your state's Medicaid director. Thought you'd like this. And then I would say, here's how it relates to what we're doing, and here's another video of what we're doing. And the engagement, the number of clicks on that first video was crazy. Mm-hmm. And it's actually an interesting sort of experiment with, here you are, you're just, and frankly, it gives you more content to deliver, right? So if you only have 3 or 4 real pitches to people, how do you deliver that over and over and over without them having fatigue? And you can sort of have that message in multiple spots. But I also like to bring in, what are the other things that I can do to just be bringing value that is sort of selfless? Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is that when we run those videos, the context and the relevance is because they all recognize that person. And then you get the credit for just being someone who's curated some knowledge for them and saying, hey, look, here's this thing over here. Thought you'd be interested.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good.
This is also awesome. So I have a question for you that has nothing to do with sales, but I'm super curious. Did you know that there's an interactive Dr. Seuss exhibit coming to Toronto?
Oh, really? I have a couple of daughters, so that could be interesting. Right downtown Toronto?
I don't know. You know what? Alexa told me about it yesterday as I was making breakfast. So you know, I have my little show sitting there. It says, "Ask Alexa about the Dr. Seuss exhibit," and I'm like, "Oh, I asked her," and it looks actually really cool. There's like an actual maze for the places you'll go, and then you get to interact with the Lorax. And anyway, so I just thought that you might find that interesting.
Oh, great. Yeah, we'll definitely have to check that out.
Well, I have a question that has nothing to do with what we've been talking about. It's a wrap it up question.
Our back of the envelope question.
Yes, I get so little mail. It's now a Post-it note question.
Somebody send this woman some direct mail so she can have an envelope, please.
Yeah,
with $5 in it.
Oh yeah, Mama needs $5. Okay, so Jeff, you've shared a ton of really good theory about why personality bringing it, gets people's attention and converts them, but also some really excellent practical and actionable stuff that people can use and try. And we want everybody to try that. So, but I have a question that you're kind of a fun guy here. I bet that this is in your wheelhouse. So what I want to know is, which is the better sci-fi franchise, Star Wars or Star Trek?
I'm definitely a Star Wars guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I never really, I think it's, I never really got into Star Trek, and I'm sort of on the cusp of the sort of new Star Trek, old Star Trek, which I think is another whole other debate. But growing up, I'd put, Star Wars for me was like Star Wars, Superman. Those were in theater experiences as a kid.
Right.
That Indiana Jones, the James Bond films, like it's just, you have those ingrained memories of those early theater experiences that even just when it starts and it has the scrolling words in a galaxy far away, and
so memorable, right?
Yeah.
So I set you up here because I have a challenge for you. I want to see how you would incorporate something around Star Wars into some prospecting videos. And
interesting.
I'd love for you to
Well, I would probably go onto Amazon and see if I could get the Spaceballs Darth Vader suit, right? So, because I wouldn't do something that's it'd have to be a spoof of Star Wars.
Right.
So, and then from there, I think we have to incorporate ludicrous speed. And then I think I would incorporate that into your schedulers are not using ludicrous speed, which you could be using with EliaCare. So it would sort of, right? And I've used props before. So I have a caveman outfit, right? Because even a caveman could understand EliaCare. And then I've actually attended a trade show as a Elia man. So I was
I love it.
Running around in a morph suit. My wife was really proud. In the auto type on our home computer, there was how to file for divorce online. So.
Well, I'm serious. I can't wait to see a Star Wars sort of themed sales.
Yeah. Well, you know what I love? So it didn't work out because the suit it didn't work out as I thought it would. But I love the concept of newsjacking. So along the lines of this Elia Man character, I had planned out when the last Deadpool came out.
Yeah. I
have a Deadpool suit sitting in my basement where I was going to film an Elia Man versus Deadpool, sort of, because every hero needs to have an adversary.
Right.
And so the theme was going to be that Elia Man is the modern health scheduling software, and Deadpool is this enemy, but then I leave the door open for them to actually really be friends. And so I was workshopping, and when it all came in, it didn't really fit well, and I was like, all right, let's just put this one on the shelf. But
you tried it. That's the key. Just
yeah,
try it. That's one of my broken record themes with sellers and sales people and sales teams is just try something. Try it.
Yeah.
Try see what happens. If you don't, just try it. Well, so, that's awesome.
Yeah, my latest thought is to really get people's attention is to hijack someone's LinkedIn profile. So when they get an email, they see their LinkedIn profile, but my picture. And then the outreach could be, hey, I went to your LinkedIn profile to do some research on you prior to reaching out. Turns out I found a hack to sort of switch. I hope you don't mind. I've switched your image to be mine. Then when they click on it, it's a video where I'm sort of green screened over top of their image. Like, so here we are on your LinkedIn profile. Yeah. I haven't changed any of the text. Don't worry about it. And obviously it's all tongue in cheek, but my sort of inspiration for all this, if you've ever, I wrote the guy's name down, a guy named Ed Tate, T-A-T-E. What I try to do is take inspiration from one thing and add it and bring it to another. So he is the year 2000 world champion public speaker. And so he has this YouTube video that he's the keynote speaker for the Toastmasters International for the year 2000 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he's got this 3-step process of creating amazing presentations. And it's basically grab, frame, and jump. So you want to grab their attention, you want to frame what your message is, and then you jump into the content. And so from that, what I took is that those same principles really should apply in your email outreach,
right?
And even in your cold call script and in your voicemails.
And in your sales presentations.
100%, right? And the biggest problem for people that are doing outbound sales is the grab, because if you don't grab, you're nowhere. And if you grab really well, you might have, the next 2 steps might be a little bit more weak, but at least you're getting that attention. And because the main thing is to shake someone's attention so that they're focused on you, because we're all sort of like the Walking Dead in our inboxes, right? It's just like delete, 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 delete. And so the subject line is the new gatekeeper. And once you get past that, you've got this other gatekeeper, and it's basically everything above the fold, or everything above the, like you've got maybe 2 sentences to sort of grab some attention. So if there can be a GIF in there instead of text, then you probably have a better shot, especially since even though video and all this stuff will become more and more mainstream, it still takes effort. And so you will always end up having the mass majority of people that want to put in the least amount of effort, and they'll just do more and more of that. That'll be less and less effective. So it's still going to have, there's still going to be a way for you to differentiate yourself if you're just doing a little bit more work and trying to be a bit more creative than everyone else.
Mm-hmm. The subject line is the new gatekeeper.
Lots of good sound bites here.
All right, we can talk for like 5 hours about this, but I really think that we should wrap it up. What do you think, Sean Carroll Sandy?
I do too. We want people to really chew on this and, work on things that might get you fired every day. Yeah. Bring your personality to play and mix it up. And Diana, any other things that really struck you?
Well, I loved it. Grab their attention, frame the conversation, then you've gotten the invitation to fill in with content. Go in that direction. I think that's fantastic. Well, Jeff, we are really excited to meet you and know you, and thank you for spending your incredibly precious, valuable time with us. We'll be releasing this video next week, so we'll make sure that you get, all the notifications. But in the meantime, I would say stop hoping
and start selling.
That's right.
Bye.